All right. Hey guys, welcome to your first micro lecture. And in this micro lecture, we're actually going to be talking about the communication process and what the communication process is in regards to oral communication and or how to identify some particular aspects of the communication process that you're going to have to know to be able to effectively give an oral speech. Okay, so I'm going to go over those definitions with you and those concepts quickly in this micro lecture. We're going to go over them a little bit in depth, and I'm going to show you an example of how it kind of works out using a model called the communication process model. All right. So firstly, we're going to define a couple of the things, and those first things are going to be, and I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you guys what they are. And here we go. All right, so first we're going to define what it is to be a speaker or a sender. It says sender here, but I want you guys to refer to it as speaker. So a speaker is defined in your textbook as, give me one quick second. My computer likes to mess up on me. Sorry, guys. All right, so a speaker is defined as your textbook as a person who is presenting an oral message to the listener. So in this model, it would be the sender here, and it would be the receiver who is the listener. But I want you guys to keep in mind that the receiver is going to be the listener in our class. Okay, so I know this says sender and receiver, but just think of it as speaker and listener. Okay. And so the next thing to go over is message. And what is a message? So a message is whatever a speaker communicates to someone else, right? So what the speaker is trying to communicate to the listener is the message. And this is the message here. And the message, it can be in many different forms, but as of right now, we're only going to be speaking in regards to an oral communication, right? So right now, as I'm speaking to you guys on this video, my message is to allow you to understand what I'm saying, and we do that by what the definition of communication is by giving particular representations and definitions to signals, voices, and meanings, right? Or signals, voices, and symbols, right? So I'm speaking English, the majority of us know and understand and comprehend English. So my message is being presented in English, and my message is I'm giving you the definition of what a message is in the communication process model. Okay, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense for you. So the speaker is the person who is sending the message, and that message right here to the listener, and the listener is this one right there. Okay. Okay, and so a channel is defined by your book as the means by which the message is communicated. And you see this box here where it says media. So media is actually a plural of what is the medium. And medium is essentially the way that something is being communicated, right? Like in some form, there's always a medium, right? So that's what the channel is saying. So right here is where you're going to understand what the channel is. And so that channel could be like a video right now, listening to the video on Play Pause It. That's a form of a medium or a channel. Speaking orally is a form of a channel, right? Because you're listening to what I am saying. If there was nothing in between us, it would be more so like writing down on a letter or on a piece of paper your message and giving it to me and then me giving it back. But even still, the channel of that would either be text messages, it would be a letter, it would be an email, anything like that. So there's always some form of communication and channel between the message with the speaker and the message and the listener. So there's always that form where the message is going to be channeled using a medium. Okay, and so the listener, as we're speaking about the listener is defined in your book as the person who receives the message. So anyone who is receiving a message, they're a listener, right? And this goes both ways, guys. So like I'm speaking to you, but if we were in class and you were speaking to me, I am no longer the speaker, you're the speaker, and I'm the listener, right? So that's how it kind of works. So it just kind of like goes back and forth each time as we communicate orally. And don't pay attention to the encoding and decoding right now. We're going to go over that in another video, so don't worry about that just yet. So feedback. Feedback is defined as the message, usually nonverbal, sent from the listener to the speaker. And so what it means by nonverbal is essentially like your body language. So in communication, the majority of our communication is displayed through nonverbal communication. It's about 70% of our communication is nonverbal. So it could be facial expressions. It could be, you know, Rick right here. He's taking a shit, looking at like the universe. So like that's a form of nonverbal communication. And I like to change my virtual background because it's fun. I don't always want to be like instructor Shane Burrell oral communication. It's boring, but I want to like try to inspire you guys, give you guys something really cool to look at. And that's my nonverbal of trying to get you guys into a good way of listening and communicating with me and being relaxed and being open to like my teaching style and teaching method so that you guys can learn more effectively and go on that way. And so going back to the feedback is the way of nonverbal communication, the way our face reacts, the way our body language, our stance. If we have an eyebrow raised, it's like, what are you talking about? Or if we like roll our eyes or something like that, that is called feedback. So when you receive the message, you instantly, and it's always unnoticeable. Not everybody has control of their body language. Some people do, but not everyone does. And it's something that is just involuntary sometimes. So that in this model would actually be the response. That's more so of the feedback. So interference. So in your book, interference is defined as anything that impedes the communication of the message. Interference can be external or internal to listeners. And so what it means by external, and you can see that right here on the model, it says noise, but think of noise as interference. And interference can be anything. It could be like a truck passes by as you're talking to your friend. It could be that you get a phone call as your friend is in like the middle of a sentence. It could be that you interrupt your friend in the middle of her sentence or his sentence and try to finish their sentence, but it's not what they were trying to like get across to you. That's external interference or external noise, as what we know. Also, internal noise is when like you are looking like you're listening, you're kind of listening, you're like, yeah, sure. Some of you are probably like doing that right now, like not really listening to the video because you probably read the book, and that's cool. Or you might just be daydreaming. That's like an internal noise example, actually. So when we have the internal noise, it's like we're there, we're listening, but it's really going in one ear and coming out the other. We're not actually paying attention. There's other things that are on our mind that are actually more pertinent to that. I guess a lot of people would call that selective hearing, but that's a whole nother discussion. We'll be going over that when we talk about listening and hearing later. Okay, so that's external versus internal listening or internal interference. And like I said here on the model, it says noise, but think of it as interference, okay? And so situation. And situation is defined as the time and place in which speech communication occurs. So here in the model, we can look at this entire thing with like, just imagine a giant square around it and think of it like that. Like that is the situation, right? So the situation could be a number of things. It could be what we're going through personally and our friends don't know about it, or our professors don't know about it. Like someone in our family could have COVID and we can't necessarily concentrate on what you're saying because we have a lot of other things going on in our life that you might not be able to know about, or you might not know about because we're not comfortable speaking about all of that. Same goes with someone who is speaking to you, right? There might be a lot of things going on in their life and they're trying to deal with whatever the situation might be. It could be environmental as well. It could be when it's happening. It could be super early in the morning. You haven't had your coffee yet. I haven't had my coffee yet. Or it could be super late at night, like 3 a.m. and I'm asleep. Like, like the situation of communication definitely takes quite a bit of influence on the way that we process communication in the communication process. Okay, so think of all of that really quickly, and I want you guys to just kind of like think of a situation in which you recognize that someone or something happened and they didn't necessarily catch your message, or you felt like there might have been some interference there. And I want you to type it down and let me know what that interference might have been and how you noticed it. Okay, and I'm going to put a question at the end of this video, a couple of questions so you guys can actually like work with this material. But I want to know, like, just like your free response, just let me know, like, what is that one instance in which you caught someone who was like either in an external, like there was an external interference situation, or you felt that there was an internal interference situation. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And like I said, at the end of the video, I just want you guys to kind of take a few minutes to kind of think about that, jot it down for me, and yeah, and then we'll continue to the next video. All right, thanks guys.